Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer. It's Traffic and Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Tuesday, May 20th. Pretty much a choppy day on our hands, just to kind of summarize a bit. I think that we were due for one of those days. We had a few flashback to yesterday's price action. It was a pretty nice trending day, buy the dip type day. But I think, I think we're due for digestion days after, every so often. And I think that's actually good for the market. I think we're at the point right now where things have kind of flipped from where we were, 3 weeks ago to about a month ago, where there was a lot of fear in this market. So now there's probably a decent amount of greed in this market. So I think that that's pretty good. Or I think that's normal for us to see some backing and filling. Risk disclaimer in front of you, by the way. Everything that we're going through in this video is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. So I'm going to start with this. This is the equity put call ratio. I haven't talked about this, I don't think, in any of the end of day videos. I think I talked about it a bit in the weekend video. But why do I look at this? What does this tell me? Well, it tells me whether or not the market's kind of lopsided a little bit in terms of sentiment, and it can provide some really good contrarian signals. For example, we talked about this back in the beginning of April. Now, I just want to make sure before I discuss these 2 points here about April and where we are now, this should be used. I never will rely on any one particular indicator or factor or internal to say, I'm going to make a whole bunch of decisions based on this. It's more of, you kind of want to take a little bit of this and use some factors and say, okay, well, this looks like this. Let's also pay attention to this, and this can kind of help you formulate a little bit of overall strategy. All right, flashback to when we saw the big spike when we saw a big spike in the equity put call ratio, when puts finally, and this took a while, by the way, right? It wasn't until this date, I think it was the 3rd of April, where we really started to see fear climb into this market, and for a while we just didn't get enough of that. All right, so I put the S&P in here too, so that you could see that's the yellow line here, so that you could see that I'm not making this up. So you have something to say, okay, look at the equity put call ratio when it got to a heightened over 1 level. Where was the S&P? Right, all the way down here. And again, it took a few days, like that was on the 8th, where we finally hit the bottom, right, for this year. So again, notice fear in the market, and as a contrarian, it was a great contrarian signal. Again, wasn't exactly that day, but it lined up. It was essentially that week, and then we began to reverse and go higher. So you want to take note, in my opinion, when everybody's on one side, when everybody thinks the same thing, because what do you have right now? Right now, you've basically have no fear in the market, and nobody's buying put, or a lot less puts are trading versus calls. So you could see, now we went down here, you could see other times, and that's basically that's the takeaway that you want to say, and say, hey, when we've reached like a 0.4 here, did this proceed, was there a fall right away in the S&P? Well, you had this in the middle of January. You had a move down here. You then actually had a spike, but it wasn't until February where things kind of moved down. So again, it's the low equity put call ratio. It doesn't mean like right away things are going to topple over, but it gives you a sense of where sentiment is, right? And I usually take that in with a bunch of other factors, with price and with some internals, and I kind of say, once I start to see, that this may be like, okay, a red flag, right? That sentiment is getting pretty darn hot. If I start to see other red flags, I will start to cut positions rather quickly. Now let's go over the price action. So that's the one thing I wanted to go over really quickly with you. To talk about overall sentiment, looking at the SPY, right? Is there any sell signal here? I don't think so. It's an inside day, and we're still above the 5-period moving average. We still have this VPOC up here. Again, doesn't mean that we have to take out this virgin point of control, which again indicates where there's a lot of overhead supply, because there was a lot of volume in here. So probably some sellers in there. What about the Qs? Right, the Qs, also an inside day. Not so you can't really make any major, at least I don't anyway. I don't make any major like changes if you just have an inside day, because an inside day is not a reversal bar. It's just it's continuation, but it's just inside the previous day. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't see that there's anything wrong with us digesting a little bit. Considering how hot sentiment is, it's actually probably a good thing. It might actually be a good thing if we come in a little bit too. All right. And the VPOC up here is still about 1% away, not far away. Let's just quickly, I just want to show this too, just the 1 hour charts here, because again, sometimes we can find some signals on the 1 hour chart. SPY closed right at the top of the value area. I had somebody on Twitter tell me, oh, bearish 80% rule. You got to let it get, you got to give it a little bit of time. Especially like I don't like to make a lot of trades saying bullish or bearish 80% rule unless we've really established ourselves. And that usually means for me at least 1 hour because this is a 1 hour chart. So each candle is 1 hour. But you got to give it a little bit more time before I would say I would trigger the bearish 80% rule. Reminder that that rule means when you break inside the value area and where you haven't made one pass yet, once you break inside, that usually triggers the 80% rule, provided that you've established yourself firmly in there. Same thing if we move into the value area from below, that would establish the bullish 80% rule. So we don't have that right now. We're sitting there right at the top of the value area. Qs, a little bit different looking. I think this actually is right around the top of the value area. Again, that does say bearish 80% roll, but it's kind of barely. I think we've pretty much have some sideways stuff. I don't really have a direction in the short term for you unless we break above 521.64 or we break below 511.24 and begin. So again, I rely on confirmation. Some people like to make a lot of predictions. I'm not one of them unless I have a signal to go off of. If I have a signal to go off of, perfect. All right. IWM also, I would pay attention to this. I think this got to the top of the value area and didn't make it. So 209.34, and that would be the level that I would be watching for upside continuation. Now, a couple of things that I thought were interesting today, and I brought this up in the in our midday note, was gold. Gold made a nice bounce. I tried to call the top in this once. I thought we had a little bit of a blow off top here with that volume. We came up and made a lower high here. So that was pretty good, for if you wanted to short this. Now we actually found some support at the 50-day moving average and we had some continuation. We actually saw some nice call activity too, both a little bit of call activity and a call spread. So I wrote about this in the midday note. By the way, please make sure that you're signed up to this. I would love to hear your opinion about this, but you could get the free version. Free meaning doesn't cost you anything. And then I put all the trade setups and more important chart setups on the paid version, which is only $19.99 a month. But here you go. Like, so what I pointed out today, which caught my eye, was again, you can see all the information that you get here. Again, I try to make this the best midday note out there. I talked a little bit about that equity put call ratio earlier in the day, so you get the information a little bit earlier. But here is the trade. But 16,821 June 310 330 call spread for 278. It's not a bad way to kind of think about where's 310. So 310 is up here. So someone is placed a bet. We don't know if they're going to be right or wrong, but interesting because it's about a $4.6 million trade. Looks to be expressing a bullish view in gold going out to the end of June. Sorry, I think I should have put the end of June, not June expiration, because I believe that's when that call spread was up. But regardless, I went long a little bit of GLD today, and I think like that's a nice portfolio hedge too. That worked pretty well when the trade rhetoric and tariffs started to heat up. Gold in that situation acted pretty well. So let me just get back to the charts here. There's a few other things that I wanted to cover today, but I thought gold. Oh, Bitcoin was the other thing. Bitcoin kind of just came on strong there in the middle of the day, and I believe that's a new closing high for Bitcoin futures. If not, it's darn near close. So I covered this chart earlier in the week. I like some of the derivative plays on Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin itself too. This is nice. Here's a VPOC. Once we took out this VPOC, this is quite normal. It's just sideways consolidation. Wears everybody out a little bit, and then got back above the 5-period moving averages, starting to move above. I've talked about this chart a couple times here. I talked about it in yesterday's video, but I like how MSTR, again, not a huge day, but is trying to resolve higher. Tested that 5-day moving average, and I did position a little bit into MSTR today, now that we're back above the 5-period moving average. All right, so that's interesting. Hood, which I think I covered in yesterday's video too, but a little bit of continuation there. Who knows? May pause a little bit at this previous high, but for now, staying above the 5-period moving average. So we begin to break back below the 5-period moving average, then you know that this might be a double top. But until then, like there's a lot of different things that could happen here. I also talked about a couple different things too. I talked about this Golden Dome, I guess is what they're calling it. We got some movers here after hours with this. Trump announced this earlier today, and he did just speak about it. I think LHX was mentioned, that they might be involved in this. Watch this 232 level. I believe we're trading above there after hours. I think we trade all the way up to about 239, 240. We took out a VPOC up here, but that's a name to watch. I think Lockheed Martin also moving a little bit after hours. Lockheed Martin, as strong as the aerospace and defense group has been, over the last few months, Lockheed Martin really has not participated. Pretty crazy when you think about that. So I wrote about that. I've been talking about the aerospace and defense group till I'm blue in the face, talking about how this has been the market leadership, and it really has. I mean, it's a monster breakout. So perhaps this Golden Dome is a little bit priced in to the market because of the move that this has had already. Very, very strong. We also know that this has gone up because they've talked about that they're probably going to be increasing government spending as well. But again, I try to show these videos because I know not everybody gets a chance to listen to my videos every day. So I want to make sure people understand how strong this group is. This is the equally weighted. So every company in this ETF is equally weighted. And this is also has broken out to new highs. So very, very important, or not important, but very significant to know where your market leadership is. Moving on, Tesla. Another thing that I've talked a lot about is automated driving, robo taxis and that type of thing. I've been long Tesla for a while. We finally became very close the other day to taking out the VPOC. We took out this VPOC 350, 350, and I got rid of my cash position today. Now I still own this in the TTG trend portfolio. I still have a little bit of options on as well, but this achieved my upside target. Now, do I think that Tesla could continue higher? I absolutely do. I think they've got a lot of things going for them, and they're expressing like they're big. They're right into the heart of some of the major themes right now in this market, because we certainly have seen a lot of FSD, lidar companies do very well. So I think they're positioned the right way for this. Also, robotics I think is very big. So what I would do is get involved. I would get back involved if this gets back above this 350, call it 354 level. But if not, I'm gonna just watch around this if it consolidates here. Maybe it dips back. Maybe this 20-day moving average needs to catch up a little bit. That's my plan for it. But from when I got long this back in here, I said my upside target's going to be this VPOC. Right now, again, everybody has different time frames. Hence, the TTG trend portfolio is a longer time frame portfolio. Hence, I'm not taking the trade off. I'm leaving it on. But in my trading account, that's where I thought we could get to, and I took it off. I kind of stayed in it for a little bit, and then once it started to kind of give way, I got rid of my very last last 5% of the trade in it. So that's Tesla. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it going forward. All right, just a couple other names I was going to mention very quickly. KTOS, this is of course another defense name. Look at the move here, which we've seen a lot of this, where names kind of is sold off a bit on earnings, even on good earnings. Look at this thing recover. There's a small call buyer in this name. I would watch to see if this could take out that upside VPOC right around $37. And then I'm going to keep this video kind of brief tonight. Again, I covered a lot in the midday video. Make sure that you're signed up at what's the, how do you sign up for this? TTGtrading.substack.com. So covered a lot more chart setups in there, but just wanted to say this is another name that I'm long. Very impressive. Both GEV and GE are making new highs. I mean, pretty impressive. You don't normally see that when a company spins off a company and they're both doing as well as they're doing. This is super impressive. Now, GE is definitely a bit extended here. This is a name in the TTG trend portfolio, but man, that is really impressive. And then GEV, which I'm long in my trading account too, seems to be the best in breed along with NRG in this power group. Look at this. There's no sellers in this NRG. How amazing is that? Look at the gap up that this thing had already after making new all-time highs and just continuing to go higher here. Very, very impressive. One update too, I would mention too, I've talked a lot about CoreWeave. Maybe a toppy looking candle here, right? Did not, made an effort to try to get to $100, which is, I think what myself as well as a lot of other traders are looking at to see if this name can get to. But definitely extended here, right? I think if you're long this, you have to be okay or aware that this thing is due to pull back some, and that's a bit of a toppy looking candle today. So just be mindful of that. If you're trying to go for grand slams here, be mindful of that. So very nice performance. Like you should be happy. Like this, even though it didn't close on the highs, that cranked up another 4% today. So I'll leave it there, guys. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.